Hey guys, it's Mama to Wife of One. I recorded all this on my stories earlier, but just in case people don't read my stories, I wanted to do my own story time here. So shout out to my girl Ish. I'm getting inspired by her from doing her stories on Instagram. But I wanted to talk about Black History Month as it relates to where I live now. Some of you may know that I moved, not that recently, but last year. Moved last December. So last February for Black History Month, at the time I was a full-time stay-at-home mom. So I was able to come up with a whole calendar list of what we're going to do, what we're going to talk about. We had a Black History scavenger hunt in the house. We did like A through Z for Black History Month and talked about everything from Richard Allen to NPHC to, you know, I can't even think, the Underground Railroad. Like, we just talked about a lot of different things, right? But this year, it's like, okay, I'm working full time now. Don't have as much time to do a whole calendar of things. So let me find some things in the county to take my children to. My little big boy is 12, my ladybug is 7. So before I could look for anything, I got an email from my son's aftercare program. This is middle school, so 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And it said, it was to all the parents, and it was like, hey guys, here's our newsletter for February. Here are some new protocols we've put in place, and here's a calendar of events. Let us know if you want to come to any of these events. We'd be glad to have you. So I'm looking at the calendar. Valentine's Day is, as you guys know, is coming up on Monday. There were 6 days on the calendar dedicated to Valentine's Day, to love, to chocolates, to whatever, but strictly about Valentine's Day, 6 days. Nothing at all about Black History Month. So I'm like, do I want to be the one to say something? And I was like, you know what, I do. I'm always the one that says something. I have no problem with that. We're going to speak up and say something. So I emailed the woman, and I wasn't accusatory. I wasn't like, how dare you? I said, no, I don't know the protocol. This is our first year in the program. I don't know what they did last year and what they normally do. So I asked her, do you guys normally do something for Black History Month? And her response was, we've tried to have things in the past, but we didn't have a lot of participation. But if you have any ideas, I'd be more than happy to put them on the calendar. I was like, okay. Gave her suggestions of 2 or 3 things she could do that are appropriate for that age group. Sent them off to her. Got no response. Like, okay, at least I can say that I asked the question and I can say that I provided solutions. Can't fault me for that. So then my next thing was to look at the library system. Where we're from, the library always had something going on. They had movies they were showing. They had maybe Black history trivia for teens. They had author, talks. They had a lot of different things going on. So it's like, okay, the library is my next bet. So on Sunday, I went to the library and asked the librarian, hey, are you guys doing anything for Black History Month? She said, I'm not sure. Let me check. So I walked with her to the computer, and she went to the county's library website, went to the calendar, typed in Black History Month, no results found. She typed in several things because I watched her, because she even looked frustrated. And mind you, when I walked in the library, I walked past the Valentine's Day display. So they're doing stuff for Valentine's Day, clearly. But none of the libraries in this county are doing anything specific to Black History Month. Now, also, let me say that I live in a state now where the governor has banned critical race theory being taught in schools, to the point where he has set up an anonymous tip line that you can call to report a teacher basically teaching anything about race in the school, right? So I don't know if all of these other institutions are afraid of the governor and that's why they're not having anything, or if this is a normal occurrence for them. Because in this county, it's only 8% black, but 8% means that you still have black people that are here, right? And even if you didn't, Black History Month is a known thing. It's not something that just came about last year. It's not something that is for every other county in the state and not this one. It's like, no, this is an actual thing. And you need to do something to celebrate black people. So then my next step, and normally at this point I would have just stopped and be like, I'm just going to do something on my own. But I was like, no, I'm going to keep going. So my next step was to contact the county chapter of the NAACP, which we have. So I'm like, surely they're doing something. So I send them an email and said, hey, I have a 12-year-old, I have a 7-year-old. I'm looking specifically for events or programs for their age for Black History Month. They responded back within 24 hours, which is great. But the person who responded basically said, oh, we're having this one event, but it's only for adults. That doesn't help me. But then she said, oh, but here's a link that, may have more information for you. So the link is part of the county's government website and is basically like Black history in the county. So it had a list of 4 events, 3 of which involved alcohol. One of which was not a Black history event. It was just an event, a Valentine's Day event happening at a Black owned business. So they included it. And then one child event that the date had already passed. So I'm like, okay, none of these helps. And then underneath that, it has a list of maybe 4 or 5 cities in the county and ties they have to Black history. So it's like, oh, you can go here and you can look at a slave house, or you can go here and look at a one-room schoolhouse. And it's like, I guess, monuments or sites that you can go visit. But again, I have a 7 year old, and even my 12-year old, like, that's not enough to just go and see where a slave lived or go to see where slaves went to school. Everything was slave related because unfortunately, I live in a state now that was very slave heavy. They were heavy on that slave train back in the day. So I'm frustrated. I feel like I did my due diligence and did my research trying to find something, and I couldn't find anything. And maybe there are some other outlets that I haven't tapped into, so I'm definitely going to keep my eyes peeled for that. But I was unable to find anything, and I was quite discouraged by that. So now I have to figure out what I'm going to do, what kind of things I'm going to show my kids, what kind of things I'm going to talk to them about, because we're still going to celebrate Black History this month, somehow, some way. But it's just frustrating. So I just wanted to vent really quick.